Learn today, this is Perek Sheni, what we learned today. A lot of good things here, a lot of good. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying some really powerful stuff to the Jewish people. But among what he's saying over here is also the reading, what we're going to read on Tish Above in the daytime. The reading of Tish Above in the daytime. Ki tolid banim u b'nei banim. So we can go through this quickly. What he said, there's not too much Rashi in the beginning. And then after that, Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jews, but this is not today's chitas, today's portion, about the giving of the Torah. He relates about the giving of the Torah, the repetition of the Torah. So let's just start from today's chitas, today's message. Because a Jew has to live with the times. The Alter Rebbe says a Jew has to live with the times. And they asked the Alter Rebbe, what do you mean the Jew has to live with the times? That's what the enemies of Judaism say. That the Torah is an old book. The Rebbe said, no, exactly the opposite. Living with the times means living with the Torah reading of that day. Because that's the real times. That's the real news. So let's see. Some of this we'll just say in English until we get to the part that's relevant to the reading of the Torah on Tish Above. So Moshe is telling the Jewish people, well, let's make our, how do I get to this here? 1 minute, excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, here it is. No. How do I get to my pointer? Can't get to the pointer? I thought I understood how this thing works, but I guess I don't. Okay.
It should be maybe in more.
What? More. Yeah, good. More. Right, more. No. Breakout rooms. Interesting. Okay. All right, it's not necessary. Let's just go back. Maybe here. No. Interesting. All right. Can you see this pointer though? This pointer.
No, you can't. You won't be able to do it until you share a screen.
Oh, this is not sharing. I see.
No.
All right. Sorry.
It's share.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. Now we'll find what
yes. Okay, it'll take me a while to understand this, but here we go. Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish people, look, I am teaching you these laws and statutes like God commanded. To do them when you get to the land of Israel that you're coming there to conquer. A lot of these sentences we're going to say now, these are things which are common sentences, very important. Ushmartem, and you should be careful, vasitem, and do them. Very famous sentence. The Torah is your wisdom and your understanding in the eyes of the non-Jews. You want to make an impression on the non-Jews? Keep the Torah. Right? There's also genius non-Jews. Genius. Just the other day I was reading about, in any case, some of the ideas of Nietzsche. Nietzsche happened to be he was a very fond of the Jews, by the way. Nietzsche was very fond. He praised the Jews and the Torah. Very, very, very much. Very unusual. Deep mind. He said, you should know the Jews, when Nietzsche was an amazing genius. The non-Jews also have geniuses, but they don't have the Torah. It says, Chachma b'goyim ta'amin. If you say that there's wise people among the non-Jews, believe it. They have genius people. But Torah they don't have. says, if you want the real wisdom of the Jewish people, Torah is chachmatchem binatchem le'nei amim. Right? You want to pretend you're a big philosopher, you're a, Spinoza or whatever it is, Buber or something like that. The Goyim have their philosophers and they're smarter than ours. What we do have is we have chachma, the Torah, the laws of the Torah. That's the chachma binatchem b'nei ayam. That is the real wisdom in the eyes of the non-Jews. It says King Solomon was the wisest man in the world. Right? Was the wisest. Why was he wise? Where is his wisdom? It's found in Proverbs, in Ecclesiastes, in Shir HaShirim. That's where his wisdom is. You want to learn how to make money, how to build rocket ships. Asher yishmun et kol hachukim ha'elu, that when they hear all these laws, and they'll say, Rak am chacham ben avoyin hagadol. When they hear the laws of the Jews, they'll say, "Oh, these people are really wise and really amazing. Great nation." Because who is a great nation that has a God that's near to them like our God, to anyone who calls to him? Who is a great nation that has laws and statutes, righteous laws and statutes like the Torah, which I am giving to you today? And he says, what does it mean? Hoganim. These are proper laws and they're acceptable laws. Just watch out. Watch your soul very much. Maybe you'll forget what I'm telling you. And maybe you'll see in your eyes and your heart will turn the rest of your life. And right? It should not. Watch out for the whole rest of your life that you do not turn from these laws of the Torah. You should teach them to your children and your grandchildren. If you forget the laws of the Torah, then, for a while you'll think it's really good. And afterwards, the non-Jews will despise you. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to say it was deserving, but the place where the Jews really, really left the Torah was in Germany. And the Jews were really accepted in Germany. Oh, they just love Germany. They say that the Reform movement started in Germany, that even to this day, they call their places of prayer, I don't know what they do, if they pray there, whatever they do there, but they call them temples because they wanted to say that this is our temple. They said, this is our temple. They said, Berlin is our Jerusalem. And it was wherever we are, that's our... They wanted to be, they admired the culture of the Germans, and said, you see what came out of the culture of the German nation. I mean, you can't find a nation in Africa, the biggest savages, cannibals that eat each other, nowhere near the savagery that came from Germany. Nowhere near. The day that you stood in front of, with all their culture. Remember the day that you stood in front of God, B'chorev. Chorev is Mount Sinai. When God said, Hakeli, gather the people, and I'll tell you my words, and I will teach them to fear me all of their days, that they are living on the world, and their children, you should teach them also. Oh, it says, what does it mean? They should teach them to the children, that they should be able to teach them to others. So what happened back then? Remember what happened back then? This is only an introduction. Later on, you're going to see God's going to hear over here. He's going to retell the whole Torah again. Here we go. See, here's the Torah again. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, all the 10 commandments. You spoke to God face to face, right? But that's later on. What was going to say? You all came close. You stood under the mountain. The mountain burned with fire. Fire rose up to the depth of the heavens. There was darkness. There was clouds. There was a fog. And God spoke to you from the fire. A strong voice that you heard. You didn't see any picture, any form. all you saw was the voice. And they saw the voice as roim as a kolos. They saw the voice of Hashem. The Rebbe explains, what does it mean? A voice is something you hear from far away, right? You understand something. Seeing, you see close. You can see your father, you can see your mother, you can see them standing in front of you. But to hear their voice, they can yell at you from far away. They can call you on the phone. Nowadays, you can see on television, but it's just a picture. A voice genuinely is something that's far away. So you hear even more, you hear about something. You're about something. So it says that they saw the voice of God. Usually God is far away. You could see what was far away. But you didn't see any figure. You didn't see anything. What did you see? Except the voice, except for what's usually incomprehensible. That's what the Jews saw. And he said to you his covenant that he commanded with you. What was the covenant? The 10 commandments. Asarat AlDibrahim. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. And to me, he commanded to teach you these laws and to do them so that you'll know that you'll be able to do them, or it's in the land that you're going to. Because the whole purpose of the Torah was to take it into Israel and to do it. And that's why Moshe so much wanted to get into the land of Israel. This is a pasuk which is usually used to say that a person always has to guard your health. You have to be careful for you. The simple meaning is you better watch out spiritually. Remember, you did not see any form on the day that God spoke to you at Chorev on Sinai in that fire. Because maybe you might come to Tashchisun, because maybe you'll come perverted, and you'll make a statue of any sort of a sign, male sign, female sign. Not like these people that worship a person. Maybe you'll make a picture of an animal, a statue on the earth, maybe a bird that will fly in the heavens. You think it's crazy. Go to in India, you see all sorts of bizarre things they make over there. I mean, they have this big holiday where they worship an elephant with little mouse over there, and they have all these meanings to it, right? They have all these symbolic, metaphors that they made about what the elephant is and what this is. You can have those things. It's okay. Everything does have a meaning, but they're not gods. Can't worship it. Maybe you'll make a form of some sort of a creeper on the ground or a fish that's in the water under the earth. Maybe you'll lift up your eyes to heaven. You'll see the sun, the moon. They're pretty impressive, the sun and the moon, if you think about it. The stars, all the hosts of heaven, and you'll stumble around and you'll start to bow down to them. And you'll bow down to them. Va'avadatem, and you'll serve them. Asher chalak Hashem Elokecha osam, that God gave them to all the goyim, the nations under the heaven. In other words, it says every nation has its star, its mazel, its angel. It says there's 70 chieftain angels for the non-Jews. And the Jewish people, it says, Ein mazel Yisrael. The Jewish people, they're directly received from God. But maybe you want to say to yourself, listen, we receive from God, but we're not. Listen, look at the Persian Empire. Look at the Romans. We receive from God. Who needs it? I'd rather worship the idol of the Persians or whatever is the Assyrians, right? They worship a nice big fish. These people worship a dog. Look what they got. They got a big. I'll worship a dog too. I'll worship both. I'll worship the dog, and why I'm not taking any chances. It says, don't do it. Maybe you'll listakel b'davar, and you'll put your heart to make a mistake and think to yourself, really, where does the sun has tremendous power. I should at least give a little thanks to the sun. It would warms the world up. Everything grows from the sun. I'll make a little idol for the sun and I'll bow down to it. What's wrong with that? Says the Moshe is telling the Jewish people, that's exactly what I don't want you to think. I know that there is this propensity of the Jewish people to worship idols, and you'll really like it, and you'll get a lot out of it. Don't do it. Because God gave these to the other nations to shine to them. God gave the non-Jews that they could make a mistake and worship them. A non-Jew is also not to worship idols. He's not allowed to. That's one of the 7 Noahide. That's the main commandment of the 7 Noahide commandments, to worship only God. God said, I took you out of the what is it called? The iron pot. What's the iron pot? Egypt. And now God wanted you to be his people. His portion until this very day. And then God got mad at me. AlDibrahim, because of the things that you did. Right, and what you did, Rashi says, he got angry at me because of all the things you did in the desert. Moshe already repeated what they did before. How they worshipped the gold, the idol with Zahav. And then God swore. And he said, Moshe, you're not going to go across the Yarden. And you're not going to come to the good land that God promised you as an inheritance. Moshe says, Anochi mate, I'm going to die in this land over here on the other side of the Jordan, on this side of the Jordan. And I'm not going to go at the Jordan. I'm not going to cross the Jordan. And you will go and you'll inherit the land. Rashi says, I'm dying. I'm going to die. And I'm not going to go over. Obviously, he's going to die. He's not going to go over the land, right? So it says, since Moshe said he's going to die, how could he possibly, what does he have to add on? I'm going to die over here, and I'm not going to cross over the Jordan. Of course, he's not going to cross over the Jordan. Not like Yosef. Remember, Yosef died in Egypt, and he demanded that Yaakov died in Egypt, and he demanded that his bones be carried. The same thing with Yosef. He demanded that his bones be carried out of Egypt into the land of Israel. Yaakov was buried first, but Yosef made them swear, Ishbia. Moshe made them, Yosef, that they would bury his bones in Shechem. Took him in Shechem. Hishomer lechem, watch out. And maybe you will forget this covenant of God that he made with you, and he'll make some sort of a pesel, tumunas call. Asher tzivcha Hashem Elokecha, that God commanded you. Because God, maybe he'll make a statue. Because God is a eish ochla. This is brought up in Chassidus a lot. God is a consuming fire. And sometimes in Chassidut they explain God eish ochla, that God consumes fire. A person has a fire inside of him. He wants to do sins, wants to worship idols, whatever. It says God will eat up that fire. The fire of worshiping Hashem will eat up all the other fires. Ish ochla ish. Kel kana, he is a jealous God. What does it mean, jealous? Mekaneli mekom, that God takes vengeance. Some word, anyway, chama. On parment, infirmant. This word in French, what does it mean? Infirmity, I don't know. Mitchare al rogzo lipare. Anyway, that God gets very angry, and if you want to worship idols,
zealous to avenge.
What?
Prendre.
To
get angry.
That's right. He says chema, to get angry. I'm trying to think, because there must be some sort of an English word for it.
Prendre. Well, the Rashi is zealous to avenge. Is the
right? Okay.
That's anyway, the translation. Zealous to avenge.
Yeah, that's what he says. I thought maybe from the word infirmity, which means to be sick, but I don't know. Okay. Mitchare al rogzo, that God gets very angry and he pays, he takes vengeance on those that worship idols. What's so bad about worshiping idols? I mean, come on. At least he's worshiping something. What does God care? You know, God is infinite. It's such a big deal. You know, you want to worship, so go worship whatever you want to, you know. Who cares? How do they say in English? Go to hell. What do I care? You want to worship idols? Get out of here. Worship idols. No, the point of the matter is like this. Worshipping idols is ingratitude. It's ingratitude. God is creating you every single instant. Whether you worship idols, no matter what you do, God is creating you. What do you want to say? At the time when God is creating you and he's giving you a body and he's your eyes to see, your ears to hear, at that very moment, you're worshiping a person. You're worshiping a star. You're worshiping that. I mean, that's just, how do you say, any insult to injury. Bad enough you're not giving any credit to God. You are giving credit to an idol. So it says God gets very jealous. He gets very angry about that, and justly so. I mean, he's keeping us alive. He could have just said, God could have said, okay, I'm just, turning off the lights. That's it, right? Everybody said, hey, where's Joey? He was just standing here a second ago. He said, oh, yeah, I told him not to worship that thing, That's it. He just bowed down and that's gone. He's gone. And that's what it should be, but it's not. So it says that God keeps everybody alive. He keeps everybody healthy, but he's very angry at people who worship idols. Here we go. Now we're going to learn. This is the reading of Tish Above. Ki tolid banimu b'nei banimu nashentem ba'ortz v'ishchatem v'asis and pesel temunas kel v'asis amara b'nei Adonai Elohecha lachi. So if you give birth to children and grandchildren, and you're going to be over there in the land of Israel, they're going to live in the land of Israel, and then they will become defiled, and they'll make statues, a statue of, and they'll do the evil in the eyes of God to make him angry. What does it mean, hishchatem? Listen to this. This is a hint. Moshe is hinting to them that they will be exiled at the end of 852 years, which that's the number of Venoshantem. This is what it says in the end of 850 years. Hiktim shtei shanim levenoshantem. This is 2 years before that, right? Before Kadei, in order shelo yiskayim behem ki oved tovedun, etc. V'yishkod Hashem al hara v'yoviu aleim tzaddik. Okay, where do you get these exactly 850 years? We'll talk about that later. Suffice it to say that until the first temple was built, was 440 years. The first temple stood 410 years. So that makes altogether 850 years. 850 years. And he said they added on 2 more years. Okay, it says what he says. In other words, at the end of 850 years, the temple is going to be destroyed. God's going to get angry. He's going to destroy the first temple. God, Moshe says, I'm testifying to you. You have witnesses. The witnesses are the heavens and the earth, that you're going to get destroyed from this land, that you're crossing the Jordan to inherit it. You're not going to stay here long because you're going to get destroyed. Terrible words. God took you out of Egypt, big miracles, took you through the sea, gave you bread from heaven. You're going to go across the Jordan River. It's going to split for you. You're going to defeat your enemies. You're going to build a temple, and you're going to sin, and you're all going to get kicked out of the land. Oh, that's really bad. It's like a person, going to get married, and the rabbi says, I'm getting married to you. I'm marrying you, boy. You should, makes the blessings. And he says, oh, just one thing before you finish. You're going to get divorced. It's going to be, a few years. You're going to get divorced. It's going to be terrible. Who would say anything? Who says a thing like that under the wedding canopy? But that's what Moshe is saying to the Jewish people. You should know. You're going to get, Heidosi Bechem. I am Hineni Mazminam Liot Edim Lahatrati Bechem. I am inviting the heavens and the earth to testify that you are going to get driven out of the land.
Opening with a closing down sale.
Right. But you don't, the day that you open up, you don't make a sale like that. You're going to get scattered among the nations. Now, this is talking about the second temple, because the first temple, the Jews were not scattered among the nations. They were all taken to Babel. And some of them stayed and some of them came back, but they weren't scattered on. When did they come scattered on the nations? That's the second destruction. You're going to be only a few by the Goyim, by the non-Jews. You're going to be them. Elohim, you're going to worship other idols over there. What people make, wood, stones, that they can't see, they can't hear, they can't eat, and they can't smell. And then, and this is brought in Chassidus a lot, Ubikashtem misham es Hashem Elokecha, and you're going to request from over there God. You're going to get scattered around the nations, and I'm promising you that all of a sudden you're going to come to your senses, and then you're going to find God. Then you're going to find God. And then in Chassidus, they bring out, Ubikashtem misham. When do you look for God? Only when you're sham, only when you're in this world, only in far away. That's when you really start to feel God. Umatzata, and you'll find him. Because you're going to look for God with all of your heart and all of your soul. But tsar lecha, when it's difficult for you, umatzaucha, when it's bad for you, and it will occur to you all of these things in the last of days, v'shavta Hashem Elokecha, and that's now. That's now. We've already been through the Holocaust. We've been through this. Jews are totally confused, scattered around the world, scattered to the ends of the heavens. V'shavta, and then you'll return to God, Elokecha v'shamata b'kolo, and you'll listen to God's voice. Kilkeil rachum Hashem Elokecha, because God is a merciful God. Lo yarpecha v'lo yeshchisecha. He'll never release you, and he'll never destroy you. V'lo yishkach et brit avotecha, and he'll never forget the covenant he made to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that he said to them. Okay, let's just do a couple more sentences. This is still in the reading of Tish Above. It says, "He's never going to let go of your hand," says Rashi. That's yarpeh. He won't let go. Ki shalna l'rishon yom rishonim. Ask to the days of yore that were before. From the day that God created the world, he put man, God put man on the earth, from the ends of the heavens to the ends of the heavens. Was there ever such a thing like this, or did you ever even hear about it? What's he talking about? Hashama Am, a whole nation, heard the voice of God speaking from the fire, like you did, and you're alive? Or did God come and take one nation from inside of another nation? He took the Jews from the Egyptians with masos, with all sorts of wonders and miracles and signs and wars. Ubiyad chazak, with a powerful hand and an outreached arm. Ubamorim gadolim, and with amazing, occurrences that God did to you when he took you out of Egypt. And here we go. Atah hares ladas, you have been shown in order to know. Ki Hashem hu Elokim, that God is the creator of the world. He's the power. And od milvado, there's nothing except for God. This is brought a lot in Chassidus. Hashem Elokim, Ein od milvado. There's nothing except for God in the world. Now, here's a very interesting thing. It says, has there ever been such a thing, or have you ever heard such a thing? There's like, especially in Israel, there's all these, professors and people, and they say that that Moses made up the Torah, made it up. All the religious people, they're just a bunch of, they want to believe in something, so they made up this whole Torah. They made up the whole Torah, and it's just been passed down because Jews are like, sheep, and so they just believe all this stuff, and it's just been passed down from generation to generation. And Jews have been, blindly putting on these boxes on their head and things like that, and they've all been doing it. They said, okay, could be. That's possible, could be. Says, but what's the story that they're passing now? Why do they do these things? Why do they put these boxes on, and they're very careful about when Shabbat comes in and when it goes out? Why do they do it? He says, well, they made up the story. You won't believe this. They made up the story. I mean, talk about ridiculous, that God took them out of Egypt and with big miracles, and he brought them to this mountain, and he gave them, it's just, you can't believe it. He gave them this Bible, and they all saw it. Could you believe a thing like that? Isn't that ridiculous? All the pupils in the university say, yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. But then somebody raises a hand and says, 1 second, but I don't understand. I mean, all the non-Jews, they believe that this happened, right? You ask the Muslims, you ask the Christians, they say they believe that God really did take the Jews out of Egypt, and that he gave them the Bible. But what? Now there's a new Bible, now that it changed, they lost the Bibles. But this whole story, they really believe. No, so you ask yourself a question, 1 second. If there's other religions, and the other religions say that God left the Jews, so why didn't anybody else make up such a story? Why didn't these other religions that claim that they replaced Judaism, why didn't they make up a story that God took all of the heathens and he brought them to, Mount Rushmore or something. And he said to them, I have cast away the Jews and now I give you the new Bible. And then afterwards, the Muslims could say, no, God took us to, the middle of this desert, Sahara Desert, and he spoke to us together and he said, I am the Lord, the creator of heavens and the earth. I gave my Bible to the Jews, but I have left them and I have chosen. Why didn't they make up a story like that? If the Jews made up a story like that, why didn't anybody else make it up? Why not? And that's what it says. No one has even made up such a story like that. There it is. It is. Has there ever been such a thing like this? Like this, what's going to happen now? It says that God took the Jews out of Egypt, that God took them to Mount Sinai. Has there ever been such a thing? Oh, hanishma kamo. Or have you ever even heard such a story like this? Not only has there ever been such a thing to another nation, no nation has even made up such a story. If the Jews made up the story and all the Jews believed in it, okay, so why didn't anybody else make up the story and somebody believe it? Why not? So that's what he's saying. No nation, there's not even science fiction, has there ever been such a story that anyone would claim such a thing that happened to the Jews? That God actually took one entire nation out of another nation, that the nation, Egypt, was the strongest nation in the world that ruled the whole world, and the Jews were the weakest nation in the world. They had no identity, they had no flag, they had no nothing. What did they have? All they had was God. And God chose, because of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he promised them, all of a sudden, boop, he take all the Jews out of Egypt, and all of a sudden, 50 days later, they're all receiving the Torah, and God is speaking to all of them. Who would make up such a story like this? And the Jews not only have such a story, but they believe such a story, and they've been passing the story down for generations, 3,000 years, and they've been giving their lives for this story. They've been suffering for this story, and they've been getting killed because of this story. And they believe it with all their heart and with all their might. And that's what he's saying here. Because of that, so God's eventually going to have mercy on all the Jewish people, and we're going to see it's going to happen again. Bezrat Hashem now. Okay. Now we